Welcome to What is PHP Function video. In this video, we will define function, describe how to create and use functions, and explain how to write your own functions. After going through this video, you must be able to state the syntax and use of functions in PHP, outline the process of creating and using functions, identify the process of writing user-defined functions. A function, also referred as a subroutine, is a block of code that performs a particular task. You can create your own function and call it later, or use an existing predefined function. One or more values in the form of arguments are passed to a function. The function then reads and processes the values. These processed values are then optionally returned to the calling code. In PHP, there are several built-in functions, almost more than 1000 functions, which you can call as per your requirement to perform a specific task. The main objective of using a function is to prevent the repetition of code in a script. Further, it facilitates modularity, manageability, and reusability of code. Functions prevent the duplication of code. Functions once defined can be called again and again wherever they are needed. This removes duplication of code. For example, the code to validate an email address needs to be written once in a function, and wherever an email address has to be validated, the function can be called without having to write the code again. In the absence of functions, you will have to repeat the same block of code at several places, thereby resulting in duplication of code. Further, if any changes have to be made, it will be difficult to keep the track of the code and to ensure that the changes have been made at every instance where the code has been written. Next, as already stated, duplication of code results from repeating the same code at several places. In case of an error in the code, you will have to make the changes at all the places wherever the code has been used. This implies that if the code is used at 30 places, then you will have to find and make changes at 30 different places without fail. If you fail to make the rectification at a single place, it will result in erroneous output. However, if you have maintained a single copy of the code in a function, any changes that you need to make to the code can be made in the function itself. There is no need to make changes at different places. Functions are reusable in other scripts. A function, once defined, can be referred and reused in other scripts also. This saves time and effort and also eliminates duplication of code. Functions help in breaking up of a big project. A big enterprise-level web application can have lots and lots of code. When you divide the code into different functions, you are actually breaking the complex application into smaller parts that are easy to understand. It also helps in maintaining the code and improves readability of the code. Later, more functionalities can also be added in the functions if the need be. Next, let's see how to use functions in PHP. As already stated, there are more than 1000 built-in functions available in PHP, some of which you will see in this chapter. Functions can be built-in or user-defined. Built-in functions are those functions that are already defined and built into the system. User-defined functions are those functions that are created by the end users. Let us look into calling functions and using variable functions in detail. To call a function, all you need to do is write the name of the function followed by an opening parenthesis and then specify one or more arguments to the function and then followed by a closing parenthesis. If there is more than one argument passed to the function, then they must be separated by a comma. A function may or may not return a value. If it returns a value, this value can be stored in a variable, as shown in this case. If you need to display the return value to a user, then you can pass it to the built-in function print brackets as shown. Next, let's look at an example. In the code, the echo statement is evaluated first, and then the built-in function pow is called, which determines the power of a given number. This function takes two values as parameters. The first value is the base number 3 and the second value is the exponential number 4. In this case, the echo statement displays the message 3 raised to the 4th power equals 81, and the PHP engine returns back to the point after the function. Most of the times when you call a function, you directly specify its name and call it. However, in some cases, you can store its name in a string variable and use the variable wherever needed while calling the function. The following is an example. $power is equal to pow echo 3 raised to the 4th power equals $power brackets 3, 4. In the code, you can see that the $power variable stores the name of the function. This variable is then used in the second line instead of directly specifying the function name. The code uses an array that stores the name of 3 built-in functions such as sine, cos, and tan, and assigns this array to a $trigonometry functions variable. Another variable called $deg is created that stores the value 40. The for each statement is used to loop through the array and while traversing through each statement, the function name that it stores is used and the result is displayed. Although PHP offers more than 1000 built-in functions, often you will require functions that can be customized as per your needs. Such custom functions that a user creates are referred to as user-defined functions. You can create your own functions by using the following syntax. Function my function brackets curly bracket code for the function curly bracket close. As seen in the syntax, a function is created by using the function keyword followed by the name of the user-defined function and parentheses. Then, all the code for the function should be written between the curly brackets defined for the function. Next, let's take an example. As seen in the code, the script creates a user-defined function called greet, which simply displays a message, "Hello, welcome to the world of programming." Now, to call the function, you simply need to mention the name of the function as shown, greet brackets. The code specified within a function runs only when you call that function. Simply defining a function and not calling it will not run the code defined in it. You must explicitly call the function to run the code specified in it. A function need not always have arguments passed to it. A function can or cannot have arguments. Optionally, a function can accept one or more arguments that are passed as values to the function. To enable a function to accept arguments, you must define parameters for the function when you create it. A parameter acts as a placeholder that stores the value passed to the function. To add parameters to a function, simply add one or more variables within the parentheses as shown. You can add any number of parameter variables to a function in PHP, and for every parameter, you must specify a corresponding argument in the same order while calling that function. The arguments that you pass are then added to these parameters. The above code creates a function called add that takes two parameters $num1 and $num2. The add function, when called, displays the addition of two numbers passed as arguments to it. Observe that the arguments passed to the add function matches the order of the parameters defined in the add function. You can see in the preceding code, the function is called thrice in the script, and therefore the message showing the addition of two numbers is displayed thrice as shown. As already stated, some functions return value while some will not. In order to make a function return a value, you must use the return keyword. When a return keyword is found in a function, the PHP engine immediately exits the function and returns back to the point where the function was called and returns a value to the calling code. The above script creates a function called area that accepts two values as arguments, $length and $breadth. The area of a rectangle is calculated using these two values and returned to the calling code using the return statement. The return value is then stored in a $area variable, which is then used to display the area of a rectangle. You can also add the return statement in your function without providing any value to return by using the following syntax: function, my function, brackets. Code of the function, return. When you simply mention the return statement in the function, the PHP engine exits the function immediately without returning any value or without further processing any code mentioned thereafter in the function. Now, let's summarize what we have learned. The summary of the tutorial on what is PHP function has been put on the screen. I will pause for a few seconds to allow you to read it. Now that you have learned how to create a function, then go ahead and write your first PHP function.